The Calgary Flames. Man, do I really need to do this one? It's like doming the kid with the inhaler in gym class. It's not even fun to make fun of this team. They're just so abjectly pathetic that everybody just kind of ignores them, hoping that maybe they'll just fold up shop and not come back to play next year. But alas, the Calgary Flames have returned for the 2026-27 season, and goddamn it do I hate them for it. Let's break down the 26-27 Calgary Flames.
Oh no! We suck again!
The Calgary Flames were terrible last year, and that should be the entire beginning, middle, and end of the story of last season, but somehow for the Calgary Flames, it's even worse than you imagined. Every single one of their young, exciting players that Calgary fans had gotten a little bit of hope might turn out to be something good. Dustin Wolf was still pretty good, but not the guy who almost won the Calder on one of the worst teams ever in 24-25. Connor Zary played in the most games of any season he's been in the NHL and put up the fewest points, and things have devolved to the point that he might be on his way out of Calgary. Matt Coronado is firmly stuck in neutral. St. Prake's shown flashes, but not enough to make you convinced that he's going to be a number one defenseman, although in fairness to him, it's hard to look any good when you're having to play with some of the scrubs he was paired up with last year. And so with all of those young players kind of taking a step back, the Calgary Flames were one of the worst teams in the NHL. But not a fun to look at disaster the way teams like Toronto and the New York Rangers were last year. More of a, dear God, do we have to be reminded of that absolute pile of feces every single time the Calgary Flames are on TV? I mean, watching Flames games last year was just a soul-sucking endeavor. Just the most putridly uninteresting team in the entire NHL, bar none.
You want to have dodgeball victory, you got to grab it by its haunches and you got to pump it into submission. That's the only way.
The Flames brought back both their GM and head coach for the 26-27 season, which seems like a ridiculous move for a team that was so objectively terrible last year. But honestly, the situation was so toxic in Calgary that I don't really know if we can call either of these guys bad at their jobs. Brad Treliving left behind an absolute toxic cesspool of a situation in Calgary on his way out, and Craig Conroy spent the last 3 years basically trying to untangle himself out of that situation while also having a mandate from ownership that they can't completely bottom out. Unsurprisingly, that hasn't really worked, and the Calgary Flames, although they have acquired some good young players, didn't do the full burn-it-down rebuild that they needed to in order to just clear the decks and get as many high-end prospects and young players into their system as possible. Now it seems like the Flames are fully committed to the rebuild, which is a good start, but I do worry that Craig Conroy is kind of heading down the Steve Yzerman path. Former player comes back to his old team, seems to have a good idea of what needs to be done to rebuild the franchise, but ultimately the moves just don't end up working and the team's kind of stuck in the mushy middle. I don't know if that's fair to say about Conroy because unlike Steve Yzerman, he really hasn't had a lot of assets to work with, but it could be where he ends up, unfortunately. Behind the bench, Ryan Huska returns for his fourth season as the head coach of the Calgary Flames. In his previous 3 seasons, the Flames have been over 500 exactly one time, have never made the playoffs, and have generally had no identity. But kind of like Craig Conroy, and probably even more so, I don't know if we can really evaluate Huska given what he's had to work with. That being said, he's going on year 4 and no playoffs and only 1 winning season. Head coaches usually don't survive that, so the pressure might be on Huska to make the playoffs this year, even though looking at this roster, those are kind of unfair expectations.
I never heard of half of these guys, and the ones I do know are way past their prime.
Most of these guys never had a prime.
Speaking of what Huska's working with, let's get this shit over and look at this goddamn roster. When Jonathan Huberdeau, who has officially fallen off of a cliff, is on your first line, you know you are completely fucked. He is now only halfway through that 8-year contract, paying him $10.5 million a year for him to go out and score 40 points. Just an absolute albatross of a contract that this team will never be able to get out of until it's finally run its course, or they buy him out a year before it ends. He'll be centered by 37-year-old Mikhail Backlund, who has been a Calgary Flames lifer, which means he has made the playoffs 5 times in his entire career. All due respect to the captain, he could be a 2 or 3C on a truly competitive team. I gotta respect him for sticking around in Calgary like a cop grinding out the last few years until his pension kicks in. Joel Farabee is rounding out the first line, yes really, and since he's been acquired from Philadelphia, he's been fine, I guess. Not quite the guy who put up 250-point seasons in Philadelphia, but not terrible, or at least not as terrible as you could be on the Calgary Flames. On the second line, you have Yegor Sharangovich, who had exactly one great season his first year in Calgary, cashed in, and has reverted to being about a 30 to 40-point player. Morgan Frost, the other guy they got from Philadelphia, who is going to bolt the second this season ends and his contract expires. And one of those young disappointments in Matt Coronado. I mean, at least he's been consistent with back-to-back 40-point seasons, and his cap hit isn't egregious, but still, Flames fans were definitely hoping this was a guy who's going to elevate himself into a 60, maybe 70-point player over the course of this contract. The third line consists of Connor Zary, for now, the Billy Baldwin of the Strome family in Ryan, the one young forward with promise who Flames fans are praying to God will actually develop into something in Matt Begeerden, and then on the bottom line, you got Sam Honzik, Adam Klapka, and the Popsicle Man himself. Defense is where the Calgary Flames made their additions in the offseason, but it's still headlined by the notable guys. Zane Parekh in his second full season. Flames fans are praying that he'll finally get some stability and reach those lofty projections from when he was drafted. The player acquired in the Rasmus Andersson trade from last year, Zach Whitecloud, still here, still a defenseman. Kevin Ball will be playing top 4 minutes, and at this point, I think that is a bit ambitious for him. This guy's a career third pairing defenseman who can maybe flex into second pairing minutes if you need it in a pinch written all over him. And Jan Kuznetsov also returns on the back end. Still young at 24, but not a lot of people are projecting him to be a top pairing defenseman anytime soon. In goal, the Wolf is still howling. Dustin Wolf had a step back of a season in his sophomore year, with a GAA just over 3 and a save percentage just under 90. Not exactly a great sign for the goalie that the Calgary Flames just inked to a 7-year contract worth $7.5 million a year. His backup Devin Cooley, though, actually one of the few guys who had a career year last season, looked like he could be a pretty solid backup to Wolf and eat up 20 or 25 starts a year.
Welcome to the danger zone.
The Calgary Flames didn't make a lot of big acquisitions in the offseason. The biggest one came in the draft. They had the 6th overall pick, and a lot of people thought that they were going to have an opportunity to add one of the better young defensemen in the NHL. But 2 of the guys who I thought were going to be for sure top 5 picks fell to them, and the Calgary Flames snapped up one of them in Carson Karls. I personally would have gone Chase Reed, but I do think that Karls is going to be a very good defenseman. And then at the top of the second round, they got Jack Hextall, another guy who I like and could be a middle 6 forward in the future. Their big, quote-unquote, acquisition of the offseason was trading for the former number 2 overall pick from the New Jersey Devils in Simon Nemec, and they gave up, honestly, not a whole ton to acquire a guy with a lot of upside. As long as they're pretty conservative, I would give him maybe a bridge deal to see if he can prove it to himself, because he's been up and down in New Jersey, and this is honestly not going to be a, okay, we're just going to blow our load. Craig Conroy, I'm really trying to believe in you, bro, but you are not making it easy here. The Flames' other big move of the offseason was finally saying goodbye to the one and only Blake Coleman, who they traded to the Minnesota Wild along with Oli Mata in exchange for Jake Middleton and a few picks. Sucks because Coleman was one of their better players throughout this kind of rocky period, and I do think he's still a very effective middle sixer, but getting back picks and Jake Middleton, a pretty steady defenseman, honestly not a very bad move there.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
It's hard for me to pick one player on the Calgary Flames who I really like because all of them come with massive question marks. Zane Parekh is the guy who has the highest upside, but I don't know if we can trust that he's going to develop here in Calgary. Matt Begeerden had a very good first year, but then again, so did Coronado and Zary, and they've been stuck ever since that first year. Dustin Wolf's rookie year looked like he could be ascending to one of the best goalies in the NHL. His sophomore season makes me think he's got a little bit more refining to do. So ultimately, I'm going to give my love to Mikael Backlund, a guy who has spent his entire career in Calgary and is probably going to retire a Flame. Maybe he'll get one more opportunity to go for a cup, but if his story ends in Calgary, it's been one hell of a ride.
For the love of God, please!
The Calgary Flames are going to be one of the worst teams in the NHL. And I say that despite the fact that they play in the weakest division in the NHL. They will be at the bottom of this division, them and Vancouver, and they're honestly going to be a very ugly team to watch once again. And even though the Calgary Flames have a lot of good prospects, I don't see a lot of high-end elite ones other than maybe Prague. The Flames honestly just need to bottom out this year and get one of those high draft picks to draft their next cornerstone piece to build around. Hopefully this time next year, we'll be talking about a Flames team that's got some young, exciting players who have taken steps forward and not the team that just seems to be stuck heading for that mushy middle.
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not going to ever... I'm always a Jets fan, but, like, I hate this team.